This week on Heroes Made in the USA. They call them blue babies. In the past, worried parents had to wait years for a cure. Today, Dr. Albert Pacifico's surgical team is providing new hope. They run not as individuals, but as a team. Gary Steiner takes on his marathons with 16-year-old Kenny Polk. And together, they show what winning is really all about. And in Miami, Florida, Claude Pepper is king. We'll take a look at why this 86-year-old congressman is truly earning his reputation as a hero to America's senior citizens.
Hi, I'm Joe Namath. Welcome to Heroes Made in the USA. In the American medical community, performing heart operations on infants has long been considered very risky. Children born with heart defects often have to wait until they're 3 or 4 years old for a possible cure, and then with as much as a 20% chance of failure. At the University of Alabama, Dr. Albert Pacifico is challenging the statistics with a hand-picked surgical team. Any parent will understand why Dr. Pacifico and his associates are very special heroes.
Michael Porter is 7 months old and just hours away from open heart surgery. If he doesn't have the operation, his already pale coloring could turn to a deadly blue, a somber warning of his life-threatening condition.
The problem of blue children is particularly dreadful, actually, because the blood becomes thicker and thicker, and they become more and more short of breath. They develop marked abnormalities of the hands, called clubbing of the fingers, and they develop terrible problems such as brain abscess and lung abscess, and the kinds of things that really make a very, very poor quality of life and ultimately lead to death.
I'm nervous. I'm very nervous. I wouldn't expect not to be. I doubt I'll sleep a wink tonight. It's hard enough to think about a tiny little baby being split open, you know, and his heart actually stopped.
Deborah and Barry Porter are Michael's parents.
If I said I was totally devoid of feeling, I'd be lying. There's some anxiety there, but it's not anxiety that anything will go wrong. This place has the best success rate in the nation, and for this type of surgery, I'm told, possibly even in the world.
Dr. Albert Pacifico is the chief of cardiothoracic surgery at Birmingham. He has spent 20 years here, working to give life to kids with crippling heart defects.
Right after birth, the pediatrician at the hospital just told us that he had a heart murmur. There was no indication as to how severe it might or might not be.
You know, I ran into 10 or 20 people, you know, with the same type problem, and they said, before you do anything, you've got to go to Birmingham.
The difference at this medical center has come from perfecting the team approach. Dr. Pacifico demands excellence from everyone involved, before, during, and after surgery.
Michael is lying on his back.
The teamwork began with veteran cardiologist Dr. N.L. Bargeron. He made the final diagnosis of the exact problem in Michael's heart.
But we see in a few frames dye passing in the opposite direction through that hole into the aorta. So this is the position of the hole.
The night before Michael's surgery, Dr. Pacifico discussed these results with the Porters.
Dr. Bargeron's explained to you that Michael has a hole inside the pumping chambers of his heart. It's called a ventricular septal defect. And in some children, it closes spontaneously. In his circumstance, it hasn't shown signs of doing that. And we all think that it's appropriate that he have an operation to close it.
The meeting was brief, but reassuring. Then the Porters had a few moments alone with Michael before he went to sleep. Time to reflect on what the next morning would bring. The reason Michael has a better chance to survive this operation at Birmingham is simple. Albert Pacifico has combined his own outstanding skills with the supporting players who give him the chance to use those skills. He knows even the best surgeon can't do it by himself.
One of the reasons I wanted to be a surgeon when I would think about it many years ago was to have some degree of independence. But I have very little independence. I'm dependent upon all of these people, all of the nurses and all of the depth that this medical center actually has.
Ultimately, though, he is the one who must find and fix the hole in Michael's heart. And at this point, everyone else is counting on him to make every move the right one.
I think it does take a great deal of confidence in order to accept that responsibility. It's something that you learn gradually to accept during your surgical training. Perhaps it is true, it takes a big ego to be able to handle that.
But he handles it successfully hundreds of times every year, repairing the hearts of children from all over the nation and many foreign countries. And on this day, in less than 90 minutes, he has forever changed this little boy's life. A half hour after surgery, Michael's parents are brought to the intensive care unit.
His color looks good. It's better than I expected.
He feels so warm.
Does he?
Yeah, he feels just as warm as he can be. I gotta lean over and give him a kiss.
Hello, how are you? Things are just great.
Good.
How you doing? The operation went along just perfectly. We found what we expected, and we were able to close that hole. I think it's fantastic. That little baby's gonna have 65, 75, 85 years of a good life. That's quite rewarding to be able to accomplish that in a few hours' work.
When will we be able to take him out?
Out of the hospital?
Well, no, out when we get him home.
Oh, when you get home. Sure.
No restrictions.
You want to treat him normally now, because he is. Okay?
That's what we want to do.
All right.
Coming up on Heroes Made in the USA, Team Steiner's winning ways and Claude Pepper's victories for America's elderly.
There seems to be a myth about heroism that says you have to devote your entire life to a cause to really make a difference. Well, that's not the case at all. By spending only a few special weekends each year, Gary Steiner of Memphis, Tennessee, has changed the life of a very lucky 16-year-old.
In 1969, Gary Steiner took up running to lose weight. Jogging with wife Bobby, he lost the weight and soon turned to competitive running. He'd won many races by 1980 when he entered a local Memphis run for muscular dystrophy. That day, Gary answered a call for volunteers to push one of the wheelchair contestants.
Call him Kenny. The very first time I met Kenny, Carolyn, Kenny's mother, was telling me how Kenny had Duchenne muscular dystrophy, which is terminal and usually takes the person before his 21st birthday. He will be wheelchair confined for the rest of his life. And it was at that point that Gary made a vow never to run competitively again without a wheelchair person.
That race was 7 years ago when Kenny was 9. Now at 16, on a chilly day in April, he will lead Team Steiner through a Kiwanis Club 10K race to benefit the Memphis area Special Olympics.
Kenny had spinal fusion surgery in October of '86, which his spine was curving. So this is their first comeback, the first time back on the road from surgery, and we think this is wonderful that he's able to go back into life and get back going again.
When I was racing, what went through my mind was the finish, getting warm. It's just fun, riding out in the country, the scenery. Right, look at all the animals, cars, people.
I was trying to realize the needs of the person in the wheelchair. What were his thoughts? And how was he feeling? And all of a sudden, I was feeling his thoughts and not Gary's thoughts. And then I felt that that's what I needed.
In order for Gary to be able to race with Kenny, he first had to design some equipment that was safe and suitable for the situation. And it has to be something that's sturdy and holds Kenny because he doesn't have control of his torso and so on.
And so we took the little wheels off and we placed this bar on here, across here, and then we took a 16-inch fork and wheel and put what we call a third wheel on the wheelchair. Then we took the hard rubber wheels off and we put on the large air-filled tires on the back. From there, we put the racing handlebars on in the back so I could stand up and push versus reaching over and grabbing where the handlebars used to be down in here. And of course, for safety, we have a seat belt on there, and we have a headrest back here for Kenny to place his head in the back, and we also have a computer here that'll tell us the time and distance on the road that we've traveled. By just being creative with things that were already around, it was just putting them together on Kenny's old wheelchair. 3 waters, please, and do you have any bananas or hamburgers?
Gary and Kenny have reached the 2-mile mark, completing about a third of the course. Over the years, they've run races of varying distances, including 16 marathons. They once even tackled a 50-mile ultra-marathon. These were never considered team races until Kenny and Gary showed up.
What are we going to do next? What is there next? And he said, what about a triathlon? And about fell over backwards because just don't get into a triathlon. There's too many things involved, so many mechanics to be thought about.
Gary expanded his team to include Jamie Doyle and Chad Payne to accommodate the running, bicycling, and swimming events of a triathlon. While Kenny has accompanied Gary on the swimming leg of several triathlons, their most demanding event was crossing the Mississippi River on May 27, 1985.
The mightiest river in the world and the muddiest river in the world is just down the road from where Kenny and I live. He and I decided to swim it.
I thought it was a great challenge. I thought we could do it, and just a great challenge.
Having run over 4 miles of the race, the distance and strain of moving the weight of 2 men have taken their toll on Gary. No longer joking with Kenny and the race workers, he concentrates his energy on the remaining 2 miles.
When you have a child with muscular dystrophy, you have a lot of financial needs just to meet the personal needs of that child. And we've written hundreds of letters to different hotels and big corporations and so on, and they've been very good to the children through the years. And there's no time to say, well, let's meet the needs today and go on and plan for tomorrow and for the fun down the road. You've got to try to make it happen now.
Though they started the race with the pack, Team Steiner crossed the finish line ahead of half the other runners.
Kenny has been raised without a father. And to all of a sudden you have this man that don't know you, then all of a sudden he has as much love for you and your child as you do. That's amazing.
If you try hard, you can do anything. You can conquer any mountain. Gary Steiner is like a brother to me and a friend. I love him very much.
You look pretty good in that hat.
I know.
What do you mean you don't?
I know.
Coming up next on Heroes, Claude Pepper's fight for senior citizens and hometown hero Dr. Dina Cruz.
He's 86 years old. He wears not bifocals, but trifocals. He's almost deaf without his hearing aids. He has a pacemaker in his chest and a synthetic valve in his heart. But don't let the packaging fool you. Like a fine wine, U.S. Congressman Claude Pepper gets better with age. He's a man with a mission, and the mission keeps him young.
Every year in America, 700,000 Americans become destitute, lose their savings, lose their homes, and lose all they have. Everybody should be protected, but at least we must protect the elderly so they won't be afraid that if a disaster strikes to their health, they can get the best medical care that we have available in our country. I want you to tell anybody that they wanted to support my bill, H.R. 65. I try to be a good fighter. After all, you got to fight for what you want in this world too often. Sometimes it's popular, sometimes it's not.
You're the most beautiful thing in the world.
Oh, well, you're very sweet. Thank you very much.
Claude Pepper's a fighter, all right, but what really keeps him going is just basic human nature.
I'm glad to see you. How are you? I'm just glad to see you.
If you don't like people, you better not get in politics. But I like people. I like to be with people. I like the association with people, the warmth of their comradeship. I know my late dear wife used to say to me when I'd speak, she would often say to me, why don't you shake hands with people and leave? Well, I said, anybody wants to shake hands with me, I'll wait around and shake hands with them.
And quite a few people want to return the favor, like most of the 28 million Americans over 65 and the millions more that are pushing retirement. Why would they feel such fondness for Claude Pepper? For years, this feisty congressman from Florida has doggedly been protecting the rights of the elderly.
This powerful and rich America, so neglectful of the crying needs of those who deserve so much from it. Anyone should care about old people because we all, if we live, going to be old someday. The old people have made the major contribution of all living people to the growth and security of our country. They've done the labor and toil that was necessary to build a great country. And when they come to an elderly period, when they need some help, anybody who doesn't show some primary concern for their needs is simply an ingrate.
In Miami, Florida, a third of the residents are over 65, and nowhere is Claude Pepper more popular than here, his home district. Just ask a couple of his constituents, Diane Grimm and Betty Doolin.
I think he loves the people. I really do. He cares.
Diane Grimm has a company that helps older people like Betty Doolin wade their way through the massive amount of red tape and paperwork that people on Social Security and Medicare often have to face.
Now, what is this?
Okay.
All these little numbers up here and the balance and the...
And any problems that we can't solve, we do go straight to Claude Pepper. The man is marvelous. I know a lady who needed extensive physical therapy. Medicare capped it. Claude Pepper got it extended. I know a lady whose checks were stolen. Claude Pepper had new ones issued for her before the stop payment was issued. I know a lady who needed transportation every day to the hospital for chemotherapy, radiation. Claude Pepper got her transportation.
It is to meet you.
Bless your mind.
It's really
And I have contacted other representatives in different districts for patients that live in that area. We cannot get assistance from them. They don't know what to do. It takes months and months. Claude Pepper just does it.
The congressman's staff has a reputation throughout southern Florida as a scrappy bunch of fighters that will come to the aid of anyone in the district who needs it. But Pepper's ultimate responsibility knows no boundaries.
Well, I'm primarily responsible to the 18th Congressional District, but I'm also responsible to America. And if the nation fails, my district will fail.
The key to Claude Pepper's livelihood is a feisty spirit that is a good example to anybody that's even close to his age.
I tell the elderly people, stay busy. Don't sit down by the roadside, as it were, and dry up. Keep busy, keep active. You help build this country, keep on building it. Keep on being active in the growth of America.
Claude Pepper has been active in politics since 1929. That includes a 14-year stint in the U.S. Senate as well as the last 24 years in Congress. The walls of his office are an awesome testament to his years of service to the public.
One night I was dreaming of the years ahead in the future, and I went back into a room and I wrote on the wall, someday Claude Pepper will be United States Senator. Now that was when I was about 15 years old.
And after all these years, slowing down is the last thing on Claude Pepper's mind.
The Lord blessed me with remarkably good health and a great deal of stamina. I'd like to be remembered as an honest public servant, a man who really tried to help the people. At the same time was a wise counselor for our democracy. He had respect for God, he loved God, and he loved the people, and he sought to serve both.
For the families in Memphis, Tennessee's 24 housing projects who can't afford medical care, Dr. Dina Cruz believes in hitting the road and taking her medicine to the streets, to the children who depend on her.
I feel like being a doctor, to be the most of what I have to serve the one who needs me the most.
The rolling clinic earns just enough to cover costs, since Dr. Cruz's patients pay what they can afford, which sometimes is nothing at all.
Some people have their own way of doing certain things, and this is my way of doing my thing.
Dr. Dina Cruz, this week's Hometown Hero.
From operating rooms to marathons to Capitol Hill, all of our heroes share one thing in common. They put the interests of others ahead of their own. I'm Joe Namath, and thanks for joining us.